Hello, welcome back to the Regretful Penguin. I'm 21 and the bitch is back. I'm sorry I've been missing in action, but I was dealing with stuff in real life. I had to work on a presentation and I visit my parents, but I want to get back on track and talk about a book that I've seen on social media and is usually kept in high regard by readers. I don't mean something like ACOTAR or Once Upon a Broken Heart, which are treated like the next coming of Jesus. I mean a novel with an actual purpose, moral, etc. Sorry, you can enjoy ACOTAR. I mean, it has its funny moments, but you can't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. It's trash. This time we take a plane to Japan and check Convenience Store Woman by Murata Sayaka, a book that I judged too soon by the plot. As usual, take my opinion with a grain of salt. For the sake of transparency, I haven't read the original version because my Japanese stops at "where's the toilet?" And my general policy is if you can find a direct translation, read it in Italian. So I've read the Italian translation of Convenience Store Woman. One thing you have to know is that the original title is KONBINI Ningen, which translates to convenience store person, so the gender reference is not present in the Japanese title, which I guess makes this story applicable for everybody regardless of how one identifies. The story revolves around Keiko, an almost 40-year-old woman, I think she is 36 or something, so de facto a millennial, who has been working in a konbini, a typical Japanese mini market which is open 24/7 for most of her life, 18 years, and now faces with prejudice by her family and friends because of her life choices and lack of a meaningful romantic relationship. At first, I thought this was a story of liberation from societal constraints that have been dictated to us millennials for years by our environment. You know, the classic, "So, did you find a job? When are you getting married? Did you find a partner? When will you ever settle down and start a family?" And all the dreaded questions that come up at the annual family reunion. Now, I must say I've been lucky because my family doesn't bat an eye on this matter, as they know that I try to stand my ground on that, except for that. Did she find a real job? And my grandma asked my mother about me because apparently freelancing teaching is not a real job, so... But there's no point in discussing with an 80-year-old woman. So when I read the synopsis of Convenience Store Woman, I said, good for you, Keiko! It's great to hear that every once in a while a person just gives everybody the middle finger and does whatever they like. If being a cashier is the dream job, so be it. It shouldn't be disregarded just because your surroundings keep telling you that you have to earn more and do something more dignified, so to speak. Also, the book was often described as ironic, funny, the characters quirky, and the story overall heartwarming, so I was drawn to it, but oh boy, well, that was not what I was expecting. Wait, not even that. My expectations were not only not met at all, but also shat on, thrown in the bin and set on fire. Yes, because this book is far from being cute, heartwarming, and whatnot. I found it utterly sad, with an hopeless ending, and far too didactic and paternalistic at times. Also, I think twice before calling the characters quirky because I agree with those Goodreads reviews that claim that Keiko is probably on the spectrum. I will leave some of those reviews in the description down below so you can see them for yourselves, but... I mean, now, I'm no expert on these matters, but Keiko does prove not to be the classic millennial struggling between jobs, making ends meet, relationships, and life in general. She likes doing the same things over and over and feels uncomfortable in taking any action that is not one that she learned in the realm of the konbini. This repetitiveness is also reflected in the language itself, so I must admit that this is a good thing about the novel, but other than that, oh well. I mean, this is the feeling that I got while reading the book. Keiko's experience in the convenience store has absorbed her completely, so much so that she doesn't really exist outside this small space. Not that she was particularly society conforming before her life in the konbini. There's a passage in which she recalls her childhood when, in order to end a fight between two classmates, she takes a shovel and smacks one of the boys with with it. Also, once she suggested making her sister's son stop crying by cutting his throat. We talk about a loving aunt. I mean, I'm not fond of newborns myself, but geez. So yeah, you get the idea. Keiko doesn't seem to discern right from wrong if the action seems practical. Nowadays, the KONBINI dictates everything in her life. Her relationships, aside from some people from school, she is mostly in touch with her co-workers, who by the way ignore her outside the KONBINI. Her movements, her diet, her appearance, hair, clothes and such, and her life schedule. When she meets with her family or her friends who have gone on in starting families, she ends up being told what she should do, why she should get married and have children. In order to avoid this, she has this great idea of inviting a colleague of hers, said Shiraha, to live with her and pretend to be her boyfriend. A little bit of context, because who the hell is this Shiraha? Shiraha is a new employee at the KONBINI and in general a frustrated asshole, although his anger is rooted in his condition as outcast. Like Keiko, he's not married, he doesn't have children, nor does he have a dignified job, dignified between many quotes, and I know what you're thinking, because I fell for this bias trap as well. Forced proximity, fake dating, they'll end up together. Well, no, because the purpose here is to defeat the stereotype that you have to live your life according to societal norms, and being in a relationship is often one of them. But Keiko is not interested in having a partner or even having intercourse. She doesn't seem to feel much for the people who surround her, let alone for this new guy Shiraha. Besides, Shiraha is supposed to be the voice of the moral of this story, but geez, I mean, have you watched Barbie? I really enjoyed Barbie, but I must admit it has its flaws. My least favorite part was this monologue by America Ferrera's character Gloria about being a woman and the problems that come with it. The message, despite being unquestionable, is, how to say, too blatant. I mean, in its form. It's as if she were holding a political speech in front of a crowd, while personally, in artworks, I prefer a more subtle approach. Can you imagine reading, I don't know, 1984 and reading Winston Smith's thoughts shouting every 2 lines, "The Big Brother is bad, our society crushes us"? It would feel tacky, and that's how it feels in Convenience Store Woman. That's exactly what Shiraha does. He can't go 2 minutes without saying how bad the society is for expecting women to have children and stay home, and men to get high-paying jobs and take care of their families. I mean, the message is valid because there are enough of these stereotypes in 2024, even in Western culture. I mean, the book is from 2016, but yeah. But honestly, Shiraha sounds like a broken record. Anyway, how does this story end? Keiko decides to give in to the pressure, made even stronger by her sister imploring her to be normal while crying her heart out to a confused Keiko. So she gives up on the job at the KONBINI and applies at a company. But after the interview, she goes inside a random KONBINI, sees that nothing is placed for optimal sales, so she freaks out and starts doing the job for the employees themselves. At which point she decides to give everybody the middle finger and go work for another KONBINI. The end. This is the end of the book, the story. I don't know what I expected while going into this book. Granted, there are some themes which resonate with my experience, like people expecting you to be and act a certain way, but I didn't find the characters relatable at all. Not that it's important for me to be able to relate, but at least empathize with them, or that they provoke a reaction in me. This time it simply didn't happen. So that's it for today from my part. Remember to leave a comment and let me know if you've enjoyed the book, or even if you have a book recommendation for me. Remember to come visit me on Instagram at The Regretful Penguin. Remember to subscribe to this channel because I need it, please. And as usual, thank you so much for your time spent with me. Be safe and take care of yourself. Ciao!